Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber, and man, this is an honor and a privilege to have Delbert McClinton with us today. Um, this is so cool, and I'll tell you why in a second. First, I just want to give a shout out and say a big thank you to our mutual friend, Kevin McKendry. Kevin, you're the best. Thank you for connecting us. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the little icon, little emoji with a bell on it. That helps us out a lot. All right, quick in a nutshell for Delbert, because we got a lot to talk about. He's originally from Lubbock, Texas, been performing since 1957. He's been awarded the Feed the Peace Award for his support of causes throughout Texas and the country. He was inducted into the Texas Heritage Songwriters Hall of Fame. He's had 4 records hit #1 on the blues charts, 1 at #2, and he won 4 Grammys. He's been on Saturday Night Live multiple times. He's been featured on Austin City Limits 7 times, and he's appeared on pretty much every other national television show out there. If you're not familiar with Delbert's music, you need this, because you can look forward to great roadhouse blues, soul, country, songs with plenty of swing and groove, horns. He's got a soulful voice as they come, and he plays a great harmonica lead as well. And man, ultimately, to be honest with you, his music makes you happy. It's impossible to not start moving when you sit down and you hear a good Delbert song, man.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, man. Now, Delbert will be, this blew my mind, and I told you this when we first spoke. He'll be 80 in a couple of weeks. Your birthday's a few days after mine. And in 2020, this year, which was his 63rd year of performing, he got his 4th Grammy. This one for Best Traditional Blues Album, which was Tall, Dark, and Handsome, which is his 26th record, an album that many people feel is one of the best, if not the best album of his career. He also received the Americana Association's Lifetime Achievement Award for performance, and he celebrated the 26th annual Sandy Beaches Cruise, which he started. And let me tell you now why this is such a treat for me. I've had 4 people that have played with Delbert for many years on the show. I had Bob Britt, who's a guitar player, James Pennebaker, guitar player, and Kevin McKendry that I just mentioned, and Rob McNelly, who used to play with Delbert. I have a lot of people on the show, and everybody pretty much talks, for the most part, favorably of the artists they work with. But all 4 of these people talked favorably of him as a human being, and they all said that in many ways, he changed my life. He saved my life. He changed the path of my career. I wasn't happy, and I worked with Delbert, and it really got me back into music. And when you hear a lot of comments like that, and you don't hear them often, that's why it got me so excited, because this guy's a good person. You could see we're doing an interview about him. You wanted to make sure you gave credit. I mean, that's a good guy, man. So anyway, thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to this, and I really appreciate you, man. You've been a blues and soul musician pretty much your entire career. I was curious if that's what you grew up listening to in your family as a kid.
Well, you put it in perspective. I was born in 1940, so I soaked up all the music from the 40s, all the big band stuff, all the trio stuff, all the stuff that was on the radio in the 40s. And that music, during a time of the worst world upheaval in modern times, of World War II, the music was so incredibly uplifting. All of it was, for such a ragged time in our history. The music, I don't know, I crawled around on the floor as a little kid listening to all of that. And I'm still stuck in the 40s. I listen to 40s radio.
That's cool.
Yeah, on Sirius XM, 40s Junction. That's what I listen to. And the music that I listen to, still, a lot of it comes from the 40s, early 50s, when so much was going on musically, and changes were happening from in the early 50s, when rock and roll, well, first it was before it was called rock and roll. I think it was B.B. King and those guys from the post-war blues men, or post-war music period. But I just, that's the music that runs through me all day, every day, and it sustains me.
You just brought up something interesting. You said, well, that was the worst time in history. Comparing this, the vibe, or how do you compare that to this is a pretty bad time right now. It's pretty negative. How do you look at the two?
They're not comparable, really, in the way that it has effect. I mean, the condition we're in right now has this horrible effect on the ones that believe it's really happening. So it's hard to put anything together that's going on right now and have it make any sense.
Yeah, man.
But the music from World War II was consistent for 4 years of the worst war in our history, modern history.
Yeah.
So there was a unity. Everybody was lifted by that music. Right now, I don't see much to be lifted about because we got a mess going on.
Yeah, man.
And I've been holed up for 6 months, and I've never gone more than 2 or 3 weeks at most without doing a show. And I don't know. We'll see is not much of an answer, but man, nobody knows where it's going right now. We know. I don't want to talk political because that's absurd.
No, I agree.
So it's just to try to compare what I'm saying about the music of the 40s with what's happening today. I don't know how to put that together.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. And there's so much the uncertainty is really weird.
Well, that's it. The uncertainty. Well, the uncertainty of that war was. So, but the difference is people were united then. They're not united now. Everybody's looking for a way out of this. So, and we don't have one. And we don't have one. Not yet.
Yeah, man. Well,
maybe never. This may go on. It's a awkward time for everybody, and people's livelihoods been jerked out from under them.
Yeah, that's the big problem I got.
And too many people are pretending that this just isn't going on, and that, I don't know, enough of that.
Yeah, man. I didn't mean to ask you to go down that rabbit hole. It's just comparing the time frame. Early in your career, you worked in a bar band called the Straight Jackets, where you were basically the house band, and you all backed up blues greats like Sonny Boy Williamson II, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Lightning Hopkins, and Jimmy Reed. And as I understand it, because this was back in the 50s when they had sort of whites-only clubs.
Yeah, it was segregation.
Yeah, these artists could only play in certain clubs on certain nights. Is that how that worked?
Well, not exactly. Like I said, this was during segregation, when blacks and whites were kept apart because of ignorance.
Yeah.
So these players would come in. They play like with Jimmy Reed. He'd come to. This was all in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up. Those guys, B.B. King, Sonny Boy, all of the early rock and roll black guys that came from a blues background, pushing it together with the invention or the evolving of rock and roll. First, before it was rock and roll, it was post-war blues and street corner guys singing on street corners, harmonies, and all of that evolved into rock and roll, and now it's gone from Chuck Berry to Chuck Battery. So you know, it's such a wide range to try to define that it would take forever to dig into all the nuances of the evolving of American music from the 40s to the 60s. A lot of things happened. A lot of things changed.
Tell me some of your fondest memories of those times when you're backing up those bands, and maybe if you have a couple of funny or interesting stories about working with some of these guys.
Well, I think one of the most memorable things about that time for me was getting to meet Jimmy Reed, Sonny Boy Williamson, Lightning Hopkins, Freddie King, B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, on-the-job training from these guys, you know, which was just phenomenal. I came from a time when little things meant so much, where everybody in the world wasn't in a band, you know?
Yeah.
I was in a band, first band I was ever in, called the Mellow Fellas, and none of us could play. Everybody was half-assed, but we were having fun. We had one of my brothers was in the band. It was his guitar that I mostly learned to play on. He bought a guitar because a friend of his had a guitar. And so we had from the time I was 15 years old, 14, 15, we had a guitar in the house. And my brother and I, that was in that band, it wasn't a band, it was the first time anybody ever. Here's what we had in the band. The drummer had a snare drum and a hi-hat. No bass drum, no ride cymbal. He went and bought a bass drum because we were going to open the show at the Sportatorium in Dallas. First time Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh wow!
We were one of 3 opening acts on that show, and we added another guitar player, which meant it was me, my brother, his friend, who got us both interested in guitar, and his brother, and none of us could play. Not really. It was, I mean, we thought we were, but looking back on it, nobody could play lead guitar. Nobody could really play much more than 3 chords on the guitar. But we were in the game, you know, and it was a big deal to us because we knew we didn't know any more than the fact that this is what we wanted to do, and we were kind of involved. So Jerry Lee Lewis played at the Sportatorium, and I remember the Sportatorium was a place in Dallas where the main thing they did was had wrestling matches. So when they would have a music venue, they'd take the ropes down and the corner posts down and make it a stage. So I'm standing, Jerry Lee Lewis is on, and being part of who played, I was still backstage. So I was able to stand right there at the stage and watching, you know, I was looking at him, and I was looking at him kind of almost profile, and watching everything he did, and it was so exciting. I mean, to see Jerry Lee live at that time was badass. I mean, boy, he came in and he commanded everything. But I was watching him, and he stood up, and he's banging on the piano, and with his right leg, he kicked that piano stool, and it goes right about missed me by about 10 inches because I was standing right there. And that was one of the biggest thrills of my life. Almost getting kicked in the head by the piano stool from Jerry Lee. And there's been a million little things like that in my life. And
tell me another one. You said there's been a million little things. Tell me another one, man. These are good things to hear.
Well, the first joint I ever smoked in my life was with Sonny Boy Williams at Mother's Place in Lawton, Oklahoma. We would play with Sonny Boy Friday and Saturday in Fort Worth. And then a lot of times when we played with him, he would take us to play with him the next night, Sunday night, in Lawton, Oklahoma, at these black clubs.
Right.
So we were the only white guys in these black clubs. And I knew right then that the on-the-job training was happening to me, and I couldn't get enough of it. On the break, in the bathroom at Mother's Place, Sonny Boy passed the joint, and life changed.
What year was that?
Oh God,
Mid-50s sometime,
maybe 61.
So you were 21 then?
21.
You smoked your first joint with Sonny Boy. That is hilarious, man. That's a pretty memorable first joint, man. I don't think anybody.
It is.
Holy crap! That is a very cool story, man. You got to give me a couple of more. This is great, man.
Oh man, I don't know. Well, I remember one night we played Jack's place, and we had Jimmy Reed and Buster Brown, Fannie Mae.
Okay.
And of course, I was the singer in my band, so when those guys were on stage, I was just there, you know. Well, my birthday, it was November the 4th, and Jimmy Reed and Buster Brown were playing. Well, on the way to the gig, since it was my birthday, I didn't drink at all. Still don't drink much, but that's neither here nor there. I stopped on the way to the gig and bought a pint of wild turkey. Only because I could, you know, show them my ID and walk out with it. Well, when my first wife and I split up, and God, I don't remember what year now, 10 years after we got married, something like that. That bottle of wild turkey, half of it was still sitting under the sink in the bathroom. I got drunk, missed the whole show. I spent that show in the office on the couch.
Oh, wow.
Because I went in the dressing room before the show, and here's Jimmy Reed and Buster Brown. They're passing a fifth of Old Granddad bourbon. I'm sitting in the middle of them with a harmonica, and I'm just hanging on every word they say, and double hitting that bottle as they pass it back and forth. I'm sitting in the middle. I missed the whole show. Lesson learned.
You know, it's funny.
So,
why does everybody buy wild? I think I bought wild turkey when I turned 21, drinking age. Why does everybody buy that stuff? It's horrible, man. But that's the first thing we buy.
Well, it's because if you're going to be tough, drink the toughest stuff.
Right? Terrific, man.
It's terrible. What is 101 proof? Is that what it is? 101? Turkey 101? I can't remember. But anyway, I thought if I was going to drink, you know, if I was going to be a grown man able to buy it, I'd buy the hardest stuff I could find. And that was definitely turkey. Was then, is now.
Yeah, man.
You know, they sell half. I just happened to realize this when I saw it. Turkey has a bottle that's like a half pint,
Okay.
which means half pint's about this tall. This
Right.
one's about this tall, and it's more than enough. And I've never done well drinking. All I've ever done with drinking is show my ass.
Yeah.
If I start drinking, you can bet your ass I'll show my ass. Yeah. So I don't do that anymore.
What
I
was the
don't go
biggest?
much past a beer. You know, I'll have a beer.
Yeah, man.
I like a red beer. I don't drink just red beer. I like a red beer with tomato juice.
Really?
Yeah, it's
I
very
never
good.
heard of that, man. I have to try
You
that.
should give it a
Beer
go.
with, I will give it a go. I need that.
Yeah.
Beer and tomato juice. So let me ask you, how did hanging around those guys, what were the biggest like musical lessons you took away that influenced you probably the rest of your career?
Well, the lessons that I took away from it was their plight.
Okay, go ahead.
These guys would come to town, and we'd pick them up to go to the gig, and they were staying in a hotel downtown Fort Worth that was the New Gym, which was a black hotel. You know, people. It was before people started making some kind of sense about that. You know, and so it was so obvious to me. It was obvious to me long before that. When I was a kid growing up in Lubbock, the first racial thing that I remember was being in Sears,
Yeah.
in downtown Lubbock with my mother. I was a little guy, and I remember the water fountains. One said white, and one said colored.
Good God, man.
And I asked my mother about that, and I don't know what she said, but she didn't really give me an answer. You know, just kind of, well, that's, you know, we don't drink from the same fountains, you know, with no explanation. So you asked me what I got from that. Those guys, the plight of black performers at that time, they got screwed every which way from Sunday. It was obvious that they lived in another world. And so learning to play the blues and being exposed to the blues is, you know, you mention blues to a lot of people and they think of, oh, these down and out, sad old, you know, into the abyss. And the only people that could do that, in my opinion, that could play that music, it came from their soul.
Yes.
It wasn't like Patty Page, and I'm not degrading Patty Page, but you know, clickety click, white marshmallow music, and white music, and until, well, the only person that I really thought was something white entertainer was Hank Williams. I still do. Nobody to compare with Hank Williams. There's nobody to compare with Ray Charles. There's nobody to compare with, oh God. There's a great album called by Percy Mayfield called Percy Mayfield and His Tangerine Band. And it's out of print, but Tangerine Records was Ray Charles's label, and Percy Mayfield was Ray Charles's favorite artist. And Percy Mayfield wrote "Hit the Road Jack" and the like. So it's this Percy Mayfield and His Tangerine Band. That's Ray Charles's band with Ray Charles playing keyboards and Percy Mayfield doing his songs, which I love all of them, and I love him. these people play music that is vital, absolutely vital, because, well, I guess to get a close up on that, just listen to B.B. King play.
Oh, I have my whole life.
Yeah,
Freddie
well,
King
it
destroys
moves
me.
you inside. You know, it's such honesty, and it had to come from somebody as repressed as Black people.
Yeah.
That's why it feels so strong, is because it's so real. Not all of them, and especially today, the last thing I ever want to hear is another guitar shredder.
Yeah.
I've had all of that shit I can take, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I had a thing happen to me that well, happened to me. I overheard this sometime back years ago, not years and years ago. Within the last 7 years, I heard. I don't remember where I was or who was doing this, but somebody finished a performance, and there was a young girl and her father standing within range of me hearing them. And this little girl, she couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old. And when this person finished their song, she looked at her daddy and says, "Just because he can do that doesn't mean he should."
Wow. From an 8 or 9-year-old girl.
Yeah. And and it's the most, it's how true is it?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, guitar masturbation is just too much.
My favorite go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, that's all. It's just too much.
Freddie King, can you tell me anything about him? I love that guy. Just melts me, man. I mean, anything he does.
I knew Freddie. I worked with Freddie a lot. I went to Freddie's funeral.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it. I remember that preacher saying, "Be ye ever so ready." And it was a moving experience. And then there was an a cappella solo. It was all beautiful. And all these women just crying, some of them fainting. It was a serious situation. The funniest thing, though, was when we went to the cemetery, Freddie Jr. was driving Freddie's Cadillac. And you know how graveyards are laid out in squares, you know.
Yes, sir.
Well, we were all at the gravesite, and Freddie Jr. was all the way over on the next aisle. He turned and drove across the graves over to where we were all at Freddie's. So it was just, it couldn't be anything more than hilarious, because it's just.
Yeah, you just don't do that.
But anyway, little millions and millions of moments.
Would you say, one of the things you could say about your music when you listen to it, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, it is honest music. It feels good,
It does.
Yeah. Would you say a lot of that, or the confidence to do that for you maybe even came from listening to those guys, or the inspiration?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not just those guys. Like I said, growing up in the 40s, there was the first time I got turned on to Black music. By that, I mean Charles Brown. My mother's youngest sister, back when I was about 8 or 9 years old, she had all those records, all of that, BB, Charles Brown, the Honey Drippers, all of that stuff from the late 40s and 50s that eventually turned into or gave birth to rock and roll.
Yeah.
I don't know. It all just, one thing fed another, you know. But the music, blues music, as I was saying a while ago, it's not, blues music is uplifting. It's not just, I got the blues, you know. It's a release. It's a release from the blues.
Yeah, man.
To let it all hang out, and to do what B.B. King could do with his fingers. That's the blues. Not just B.B. Gatemouth Brown was a good friend of mine.
Clarence Gatemouth Brown.
When I first got turned on to Gatemouth Brown, he was the deputy sheriff in New Mexico.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, he always carried a gun and his badge with him, even up to when he died. He used to come. He's got his own booth at God damn, what's the name of the place? House of Blues in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
In their restaurant, he's got a booth that's signified as Gatemouth's booth. And every time I played the House of Blues, he'd come out. We were. I tell you, when I met him at an outside concert in Louisiana, and I couldn't wait to get there because I knew he was there, and I'd never met him. And when I got there, I got to asking anybody, you know, if Gatemouth was, he's over there, man, with a bullwhip. And I went over, and he was out there practicing popping his bullwhip. And when I got a break, I introduced myself and told him, yada, yada, how much I liked his music and all. And he signed a record and gave it to me. He said, "To Delbert, my asshole buddy." But every time he would come to the House of Blues and I was playing, I remember one night we were getting ready to play, and he was in the dressing room. We were shooting a breeze. I said, "You want to come out and play one?" He said, "I didn't come here to save your ass." That's the way it was. And I said, "You got your pistol with you?" And he'd show me. He always had his pistol with him and had his badge with him.
That's funny, man.
I'll tell you what really pissed me off more than anything ever was when Katrina.
Yeah.
Well, he was already real sick, and he was in. I think he was in. He was somewhere in Texas, just out of Louisiana, and he was dying. And when Katrina hit, it hit his place and took every bit of memorabilia, his guitars, everything, and washed them away.
God.
And some idiot bitch who had been taking care of him, or this is the way I heard it, went to his deathbed and told him that he had lost everything.
Man.
You know.
It's
amazing what people will do to be a part of something.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
And maybe not realizing what they've done, but in order to be a part of it, here, I'll give you the worst news. I don't know. I'll never forget that. But
yeah, that's sad, man.
Yeah.
In 61, when you cut "Hey Baby" with Bruce Channel.
62, I think, wasn't it?
It says 61.
Yeah. Okay. Right. 61.
Whatever I read, maybe 62. Let's call it 62.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong too.
That is such a fun, cool song, and that went to #1. And your harmonica playing on that is like iconic. It's very memorable. Like maybe someone doesn't know the name of the song, but everybody that's a baby boomer has heard that song, man. right? And it pops out, and you're like, what I was curious about is your playing sounded so free on that. And I was wondering what was going on in your life at the time. Were you having a good part of your life to be that open and just, it's impossible not to like
No,
that.
I was 21 or 22. I was going to change the world. Had no doubt about it that I was going to change the world, along with many others. But you got to put all this in perspective for it to make sense. In Fort Worth, Texas, in 1962 or 61, whichever it was not a hub of music. There was one, well, there was two people, but only one that mattered, that was recording anybody. And there was a guy named Major Bill Smith, and he was a piece of work.
I read about him.
Oh God, he was a piece of work. But he was the only guy that was taking people into the studio. And I met him because he hung out at the studio. And it was a studio in the basement of KFJZ Radio.
Okay.
And they were the Muzak hub of the city. But they also had this recording studio. And the engineer there, a guy named Bob Sullivan, Bob passed away about 3 years ago. I learned so much from him because he used to be the sound engineer on the Louisiana Hayride.
Okay.
Which was a big deal, kind of like the Grand Ole Opry. Only in Louisiana, it was Louisiana Hayride. And he had the best stories. For example, he told me, I forget the artist, but he said, every night somebody would come to him before their performance and slip him a $10 bill or something, said, turn the volume up on the applause on my there's always some kind of inside jive. And it was funny. And he had another guy. I'll tell you, Major Bill, this is the way he did business. I spent a lot of time at that studio because, like I said, Bob had all the stories I needed to hear about the inside of something, music. And so I was in there one day visiting with him. I had a job. Every job I ever had was something a smart monkey could do because I don't want to work, So I get these jobs. I had these jobs like driving a hotshot delivery truck for a brake and clutch company or something where I was out all day in a pickup delivering shit and didn't have to fuck with anybody.
Yeah.
So a lot of time I go down to the studio and spend an hour hanging out with Bob, and listen. One day I was in there and a Major Bill, the door slung open to the studio and he said, hey, Bob, put me down for 10 o'clock Saturday morning. And Bob says, all right, Mage, who you bringing in? He said, I don't know, I'll find somebody. This is the way he did. And so I had met him, so he would call me to get players together for his new artist, right? And one of these days, it was Bruce Chanel. And Bruce and I hit it off immediately. He lives about a mile from me, and we're still the best of friends.
That's cool, man. That's a long ass time, man. That's 60 years.
We experienced that together. Hey Baby is half the soccer teams in Europe. That's their rally song. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Thousands of people singing Hey Baby at the same time. Bruce got invited to Germany several years ago to lead them in the singing of Hey Baby.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That song is the song for multiple European soccer teams. It's the craziest thing in the world. But it is what it is. And anyway, that one day it was Bruce Chanel came in to record, and
That Saturday at 10 a.m.
well,
oh, okay.
yeah.
This is just some random day. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that day, you know, I got together some guys to back up Major's artists, you know, and it was Bruce, and like I said, Bruce and I hit it off. And he sat down and started playing "Hey Baby," and what I played on the harmonica just came out.
First take.
Huh?
First take.
Well, actually, we took 2 takes and got it.
That's amazing, man.
It is. But Bruce is one of these guys that he don't need anybody else. He can play and sing, and that's all you need. You know, I mean, he can accompany himself and sing his songs. And there was nothing difficult about it for me. He started playing the songs, and I immediately hear this riff in my head instantly, which is something that happens a lot for me. But he started playing that song, and I started playing that part. And within a few minutes, we had it. And we cut about 3 or 4 other songs that day. And when we got through, Major Bill, he wanted to put out the single as Dream Girl, which was the flip side of Hey Baby.
Right.
And we all said, "You're out of your mind." I said, "This is the hit." What's the guy's name in Houston? Huey Moe and Bill Smith, Major Bill Smith, were bargain basement Colonel Tom Parkers. Hayseed guys. So they were always kind of in competition. And the Major, he sent, who did I just say? Huey Moe, Hey Baby to listen to, and he offered him $500 for half of it right there. That's when the Major knew he had a hit.
That's funny.
Oh, it is. It's hilarious.
That's a funny way of. That's like a funny litmus test way of testing out something. You know, send it to your competitor if he wants a piece of it, then you know it's good.
That's exactly right.
That's clever, man.
It is clever, but
it really is.
But you know, that's the way of things were going back then. It was a whole different life, whole different world back then. It's hard to put some things into words that make any sense of the time and place and people.
What was the you said Fort Worth wasn't a big music town. Where was all the music happening back then?
Well, I say
Texas.
Once again, let's put it in perspective. There weren't venues as we call them today. There were beer joints.
Right.
And that's the place where you find live music, out on the Jacksboro Highway, or the Weatherford Highway. All those highway beer joints, place where you can bet somebody will get stabbed that night. You know?
Right.
That's all there was. That's all there was for somebody to go make music in, was beer joint.
Yeah.
And there were lots of them.
So in the 70s, man, you moved out to LA, and if you're comfortable, because it's a funny ass story, if you could tell the story of how you decided to move out there. Well, and then once you got there, what'd you do for work? But tell that story if you're comfortable, please. That was
sure. Well, I was my first marriage was turmoil the whole way through. The same old story, 2 young people, yada yada yada, get married, and it goes nowhere because you're too young and stupid.
Sure.
And it's horrible, but that's what happens. That's the way we live. And I was separated, and I was playing a beer joint there in Fort Worth, one night, and Maggie shows up. It's a girl I'd known for forever, since high school. And I hadn't seen her in years. I hadn't seen her in 3 or 4 years. Well, she showed up at the beer joint that night, Stork Club, the place we were playing. And she had just gotten a divorce, had some mad money, and we hit it off that night. We reconnected, and with an upgrade. You know.
That's the first time I've heard it put like that. That's good.
Well, I'd known her, you know, her boyfriends and stuff. You know, we all grew up together, but
Sure.
we'd never had a magic happen between us. Well, it happened that night, and so we started running wild together, you know, and it was as wild and fun a time as you can imagine that idiots can have together, you know, and, you know, scared of nothing, uninformed about most things, but you know, that old man and woman thing, it got a hold of us. And Glenn Clark was a friend of mine. He's about 8, 9 years younger than me. He and I, we'd been playing together in Fort Worth, and he took off and went to California. This was about, I don't know, a year or so before I went. And he went out there and he was staying with Ray Clark, no kin, but Ray had a place in Topanga Canyon that was on the side of a hill. Hell, everything in Topanga Canyon on the side of the hill. So those guys, Ray and Glenn, both kept calling me and saying, "Man, you need to come out here. You need to come out here." And my life was such a mess anyway. And Maggie had just come into my life, and she had, like I said, she had some divorce money and a '66 Chrysler Imperial. And I said, "Hey, you want to go to California?" She said, "Hell yeah." So that's what we did. And I didn't have any money. And so it was, the getting out there and all was kind of on her dime, you know. But you know, that didn't matter then, because we were having a time, and that's all that mattered, you know. Let's keep this going. Well, we went out to California, and I remember we got there early one morning, and we called Ray from the Pacific Coast Highway at the entrance to Topanga Canyon. He came down to get us. I hadn't seen Ray in years. He had hair down to his shoulders, and he was a dancer. I mean, he was a real rhythmic guy. He was a drummer. He was a better dancer than he was a drummer.
Right.
So we were all gonna stay. You know, he was gonna put us up. Well, their house is on the side of the hill, and the downstairs room had a dirt floor.
Oh my God.
Kind of a storage area or whatever. Well, and they were on septic tank. All of that out there is on septic. So they had a mattress that we flew on put a sheet on the dirt floor, put that mattress on it, and that's where me and Maggie were going to spend the night, sleep that night. Well, I don't know. And when we got there, let me go back a little bit. When we got there, everybody went and took a shower. And at that point, nobody had told us that using it too much causes it to overflow.
The septic, yeah.
Septic. So somewhere in the middle of the night, I got up to go pee.
Oh.
And the mattress is in sewage.
Oh.
Yeah, my clothes, my shoes, everything. So we realized this wasn't going to work. So we went soon after that, we did stay there for a while after that cleanup. But hell, it was an adventure.
Right.
You know, we were hungry and we were willing to do whatever it takes. And hell, I was 30 years old.
How did things work out once you got out there? What'd you do for work?
Well, I'm about to tell you. We eventually went and found an apartment in Venice. And I don't know how much you know about California.
Don't know much.
Well, Venice it isn't there. I don't know really what it's like now, but at that time, that's where all the bohemians lived, and the junkies, and the every kind of weirdo there was.
Okay.
So we found this apartment. I don't even remember the real name of the place, but it was called Methadone Manor. And you could walk. The first thing somebody told us is never walk around on the roof barefooted because there's rigs laying everywhere. You know?
Oh man!
And we didn't realize what a dangerous spot we were in, and we walked around at night like we owned the place. And every night there would be red flashing police lights right out there on the street below us, because there's always some kind of mayhem going on, you know. That place we rented had 4 locks on the door.
Holy.
Inside it was painted black, floors, walls, and ceiling.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, it's another time.
Yeah.
And so everything went pretty well until it took me a little while to find a job. And Maggie kind of had all she wanted of it and moved out.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you how we were living in this apartment. There were 2 rooms and a small kitchen. The front room, Glenn took that for his area. Maggie and I took the other room, and we took the doors off of this double door closet. The closet's about, 3 feet deep. We shoved our mattress that we got from somewhere up in there, and then hung shears across the door so we could have 3 feet of privacy. We'd get in there on our mattress and we'd get all the way into the closet where we were, I don't know, this deep.
Yeah.
Into an alcove. Well, when she left, she finally left, and she broke my heart. Only time in my life I ever had a woman break my heart.
Really?
She broke pretty good. But within the hour after she left, I sat there on that mattress and wrote 2 more bottles of wine. So, I got that from it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's funny to have your heart broken like that. You go through, or I went through for example, we go into Santa Monica to wash our clothes. We go to this, washateria thing, self-washing place. And I think about her and everything I did. I remember.
Oh, you were really heartbroken, man. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was, man. I'd never experienced anything like that. I remember standing outside that washateria, smoking a cigarette. I smoked back then. And there was this, like the Red Baron, this biplane, was flying over that park there in Santa Monica. And I was positive that Maggie was in that plane with that pilot and they were having a good time.
Oh, wow.
I saw her everywhere. But I got over it.
That's amazing that you wrote 2 more bottles of that. It turned tragedy into, travesty.
Exactly. Well, let's play that event has played a role many, many times in my life. You know, I have never, what's the word I'm looking for? I've never doubted my ability. Regardless of what went on, it was just a temporary setback as far as I was concerned. I never lost the love for making music. And I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I could succeed at doing it. But it took a while. But, you know, living the life.
At the end of the 70s, that's when that came out. That was a #1 hit that Emmylou Harris covered. How did you get that song to her?
I didn't get it to her. I don't know who got it to her.
You really?
Yep.
You just got like a phone call one day or something, or how did that?
Well, no, I realized when it came out that, hey, she's doing my song. But you know, I didn't have any inside knowledge of the music business then. I was in a bar band.
Holy, how the hell could that song have, I mean, like who did somebody hear you play? I mean, how would that have happened?
Well, because I put it out and it was a local hit.
Oh.
Back to Major Bill Smith. He was the only guy that I recorded with when I was living in Texas. And he stole everything from me that you could steal from somebody who didn't know the rules. Stole publishing, you know, took all the publishing. So
you never got paid on all that early stuff?
No.
Oh, man.
Hey, but I'm not the only one, you know.
I know.
It's happened to me. The point I'm trying to make is that I had no pull whatsoever with any record company or with anybody in the record business. I was in a bar band making records for Major Bill, and I thought every one we made was going to be a big hit. They weren't, but he was the only connection I had to the music business. So, and all I wanted to do was record. I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted to record some of my songs.
Sure.
And so, in doing so, he took everything he could, and that's the way that goes.
Yeah. No, I've heard this from so many people. It's horrific. It's really tragic to hear this, man.
Well, it is, but it's you know, people are assholes, man.
Sometimes, yeah, man.
I'd rather live with dogs than people.
Sometimes, yes.
Anyway, you can't do that. So,
when that song broke, what did that do for you in terms of like opportunities and also from a confidence standpoint?
Well, it made me feel great. But once again, I knew nobody in the record business. I didn't know anybody at her record company that put that song out. In fact, before I heard it, somebody else heard it and said, "Hey, Emmylou Harris recorded a song of yours." That's how disconnected with the recording industry I was.
Yeah. So that didn't really do anything for like career-wise or opportunity-wise, just because you were so far removed.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about more of this unscrupulous record label stuff. In the early 80s, I read this, I couldn't believe it. You get hit with a tax bill of almost 300 grand and you're making 18 grand a year. And a lot of people would have quit the business at that point. And I would love to know the conversation or the conversations you had with yourself during that time period that kept you going, because that's serious commitment.
Well, again, this was at the time of my second divorce. and all the upheaval you can imagine that goes along with that was going on.
Sure. So you had the second, you're going through a divorce while then you get hit with this $300,000 tax bill.
Yeah.
Oh, man, when it rains, it pours, I guess.
Yeah. But not only was I getting a divorce, my wife now came into my life. Well, was already in my life. She and I had been having an affair for a couple of years.
Right.
When at time I'd go to New York and I work anywhere close, she'd come out of work, and she saved my everything. She's my best friend, and she's the smartest woman I've ever known. So she came in during all of that. She was living with me before our divorce. My divorce was final from the. Oh, I sound like a sleazy bunch of bastards.
No, you don't. You know what, man? Shit happens. Shit happens.
Anyway, they came along and said, "Sell your house, or we'll sell it for you." An accountant in Austin. This was before Wendy came along. Wendy's my wife. This accountant in Austin was handling my affairs, monetary affairs, and he got me in a tax shelter that he thought by the time it came due, I would be making more money. I was looking pretty positive in some ways then, I was making records that nobody ever heard, but the people that did liked them. So it was, so Wendy came into the picture and we got rid of this accountant. Well, when we did, he paid off his friend, the lawyer that I owed some money to. And Wendy hired professional legal people and got this thing resolved, but not before I lost my house. And anything else I had to take it. I had an idiot call me one day and say, "I just heard one of your songs on the radio. Who do I see about collecting for that? I know y'all get paid for getting played on radio." That kind of,
Man. God, that's horrible, man.
I think one of the things that probably helped me through all of that was my ignorance. My ignorance and my determination. I like I have a credit graduating high school in English. And I don't know, I did not do well in school at all, especially in math.
Right.
The reason I chose music business is because all you got to do is count to 4.
That's a great quote.
but you got to do it right,
Yeah.
You got to do it right. Anyway, my ignorance of the reality of social being was zip. I was concentrated solely on me, and I guess you could say I was selfish, unintended but selfish, because the music came first in everything I did.
But Delbert, don't you think to be successful as a musician, and I've heard this from so many people, they say if you have a plan B, you might as well quit now, because you're going to get some version of all the bullshit you got, maybe not that much, but you're going to get heaped on.
Well, in looking back on it, like I said, I was not a very smart guy in the ways of business
Right.
of any kind. So all of that just rolled off my back.
Yeah.
I never really was aware of the import of it or the ways of it.
Sure.
And so I never thought about doing anything else but music ever. I've had a lot of jobs, stupid jobs, just to make a living. But I was also playing 5-6 nights a week in a beer joint.
Right.
And you can't make any money in a bar band, but you can play 5 or 6 nights a week.
Right.
And that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. And I would take anything you could throw at me as long as I could play music. And it's always been that way.
That was such an honest answer that you gave me, my ignorance and my commitment. That was really cool. Thank you, man. That was freaking honest answer for how you got
Well,
through
it's
that.
true, you know. Yeah. I can look back and see myself as the dumbest son of a bitch there is.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, man.
Well, I'm not anymore.
Right.
But at some point in time, I was so uneducated about the matters of being an adult.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm an adult yet.
In 92, you won your first Grammy for Good Man, Good Woman with Bonnie Raitt. At that point in time, were you sort of now entrenched in the music industry?
By that time?
Yeah, you
what
were.
Year was that? What year was that, you know?
92.
92. Was I entrenched? I was way far ahead of where I was. After the IRS took my house, when Wendy left New York, she had an apartment in Yonkers. She sold her apartment, came to live with me. And with all this IRS stuff, I lost my house. So she took what money she got from her apartment, selling her apartment, and bought an apartment in Nashville. Well, we kind of decided that would be the thing to do because I had to get out of my house.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, what the hell, you know? Said, well, let's go to Nashville. You know, maybe I can make something happen in Nashville. And so she bought that place in Nashville, and we moved here. And I didn't have any success in the music business as far as monetary success until 93. I was 53 years old and made a little money and learned a lot and became even more inspired by Wendy's hand at navigating life. All of the things that I know nothing about. I can remember my first marriage. I can remember how detached I was every year when we would go to this man to do our taxes. I have no idea what that is. None whatsoever. How to do that. So being over there in that man's office with my first wife, who did know something about that, I felt like the world's biggest idiot because I just didn't understand a word they were saying about anything. And it's still that way. I don't comprehend that world at all.
But you got someone that you hooked up with someone that cares about you and knows that world.
I did. Wendy, like I said, Wendy saved my life. She came along and saved my life. and recharged me. And I started writing more songs. Well, when I moved to Nashville, first thing I did was get in touch with an old friend of mine who used to be in my band 100 years ago. He was already living in Nashville, had been there for years, 6, 7 years. I got in touch with him, and that's when I started songwriting, collaborative songwriting. And we did really well at it. You know, we've written 30 plus songs together, and they're all on those records from the 90s forward. And I don't know, man, you know, I've always been so incredibly determined to prove to myself that I can do this. Nobody else, just to me.
Right.
And I learned what I do from people like Ray Charles, people, Hank Williams, people who can articulate simplicity and make it profound. And I knew that I could do that, but it's taken. This last record, the one we just won a Grammy on, is the best performance of anything I've ever done.
It's a great record. You got a great band.
It is a great record, and I do play with a great band. So I'm going to be 80 years old in a few days, few weeks. But I want for nothing, and that's a damn good place to be.
Oh yeah. I want to touch on something you just said. When you in the song, "If I Hock My Guitar," you got a lyric in there. Says, "These days I can do without a lot of things." And when we first spoke a few weeks back, you mentioned to me, "I don't have to do anything I don't want to do." And I've read that quote or something very similar that you had said a few different places online. So this is like obviously pretty important to you. And if you're comfortable sharing, if you could tell me the importance of that to you.
The importance of that view?
Yeah, the importance of, you know, why is that so important to you now? It's obviously means a lot that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, pretty much, like you just said.
It means a great deal. I love music, obviously, but I've been doing it a long, long time, and I love to play music, but I hate the hotels. I hate the hotel. I hate being isolated in a hotel, and I hate having to go travel.
Yeah.
I love the bus. I love traveling in the bus, but I prefer to stay home now.
Yeah.
And if the world ever gets right side up, well then I can go and do shows at my leisure. You know,
right.
I don't have to go do it.
Yeah.
I fortunately am in a place where I don't have to do it. And it makes it a lot more fun when you don't have to do it.
So you've proven to yourself you got this thing down now, finally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
I am solid.
That's cool, man. That's really important. That's really important.
It is. It's very important. And man, I'm good. You know, I'm solid.
Tough question. Tell me the top 3 experiences you've had musically.
Oh God.
Yeah. Just knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. Well, one of them was what I told you about that Jerry Lee Lewis thing. That was a thrill.
Sure.
Man, I don't know. Mother's Place in Lawton, Oklahoma was a big deal. That's burned into my memory with a smile.
What was so special about that?
Huh?
What was so special about that?
Well, that's when I smoked a joint with Sonny Boy.
Yeah.
That's a memory I'll take to the grave, you know.
Have you paid it forward? Have you like found some young musician to get him high? Smoke his first joint with you.
Oh, I'm sure I have, but I can't recall. That's never been a priority of mine to go and turn anybody on to that. That's a world unto itself, and you're either into it or you're not.
Sure. Losing my place here. If you had to go back and give your younger Delbert advice, assuming you would have listened, what would you have told yourself?
I don't know. Because my life has been, my marital life has been chaos since 1959 up until Wendy came along.
Sure.
I had two very unfortunate marriages. And the first marriage, I was the biggest asshole. I guess you'd say I didn't take marriage seriously, and I was a cheat, a lowlife, disregarding my wife.
Sure.
Doing what I damn well pleased, and living the life of a male whore. You know? The thing couple of things that you can take to the grave with you is, if you play in a band, you get women, period.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. You can carry a guitar case around, and whether you can play or not, you could have a woman before she knows she's been had, just because you're carrying a guitar case around. That's truth, and I know people that have lived that way. If you're in a band, women present themselves to you,
right,
on every level.
Do you have a favorite song that you wrote?
I probably do, but depends on the mood I'm in as to which one it is.
Sure. Your arrangements, they're really well done, and I was curious, like, how did you learn how to arrange music like that? Because that's, especially with your current band, you have so many tools there to use, and you put them together really well. How did you figure out how to do all that?
I think the biggest reason I can give for that is listen to Ray Charles. It's perfect. If anything's perfect, it's Ray Charles and his arrangements. But then Frank Sinatra in those arrangements. Real people playing real instruments at the same time, not stuff flown in from put together piece at a time and retuned, which is what goes on today. Yeah. I heard a girl on TV. Oh, it's been a year or so ago. She was standing up for this young girl who got caught lip syncing, and she said she was trying to make this girl look better. And she says, well, that's just what I said. I wouldn't even consider going on stage without auto-tune.
Oh my God.
Now, the first thing I thought is, Where's the reward?
Yeah.
You know? Well, a lot of people use auto-tune in their life. And auto-tune is bullshit.
Yeah.
So it's all bullshit. It's hard to wade through anything to find the reality of something without having to dig through bullshit. Unless you've been directed in the right direction, and I think I was.
Yeah.
I know I was. So as far as arrangements, I could put horn arrangements to the hum of the city. I hear it everywhere. There's a song going on all the time in my head. There's an arrangement going on all the time in my head. And I learned that from people who do that so well.
That's cool. A few years back, I guess around 2014, you had bypass surgery and it all worked out, thankfully. Yeah. I was curious, what kind of changes in how you think about life did this bring about, and how did you take these changes and then turn them into new or different behaviors?
Well, first of all, I didn't have a heart attack. We were in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we arrived early in the morning, and our rooms weren't ready at the hotel yet, right? So we went out to the outdoor venue so my crew could unload all of the equipment and get everything ready for the night's performance. Well, I'd been having this feeling like I was having heartburn. And that morning, while I was in the bus and the crew was loading stuff in, I started feeling really weird. None of the signs of a heart attack, just really weird, to the point that I walked back up to the front of the bus and I told the guys, told my road manager, I said, I think I need to go to the hospital. And so that started, Yeah. And EMS showed up. Somebody called them and they showed up. They checked me out, couldn't find anything wrong, and said, well, what you need to do says you need to go to the emergency room and get checked out. And I thought about that for a minute, and I was thinking, that's about a $2,500 ride. And so I said, no, thanks. They wanted to take me over there. I said, no, thanks. I turned to the promoter of the show. I said, "Did you give me a ride over to the emergency room?" So he took me over there, and they found I had a 95% blockage in the main artery.
Shit.
And the next day, they cut my heart out. And had a triple bypass. Had a triple bypass that it all went so well because, for example, I remember some other person I know who had heart surgery was talking about where they take the vein out of your leg. They take a vein out of your leg to put in your heart. They had so much trouble with that, and it gave them a hard time for months. So it didn't bother me at all when they took that out. And on the third day after heart surgery, they kicked me out. Before they they want you up and at them right away.
Yeah, right. It's not
so They finally told me, it's one of the things they did that really made me feel good. You know, when you're trying to recover from that, they gave you this little thing to blow, and you got to keep a little ball in the middle for so long. Well, I had no problem doing that because I sang.
Right.
And I had lung power. And so before they let me go, the doctor that checks on that had me blow that little thing. He took it from me and tossed it in the trash. He said, "You don't need this."
Oh, cool.
The last thing they did before I left was hand me a big heart-shaped pillow and said, "This is going to be your best friend for the next 8 weeks." And it was. Because having your chest torn open and manipulated, it causes a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I got in a bathtub once and couldn't get out. My wife couldn't even help me get out. I finally got out, but I thought I was going to bust everything open doing it.
Holy shit.
The last time I got in a bathtub during all of that. But you have something like that happen to you, and you go through, for me, I went through this period of melancholy that was just really awkward, because it's a psyche that I wondered if I could ever sing again. I wondered if I could still do it. I wondered a lot of things. But when I got better, I found that my voice was better than it's ever been. Completely better than it's ever been. And that's what I got from it. Also, the last night, I'd been chewing Nicorette gum for going on 30 years. I quit smoking, but I was addicted to the gum.
Sure.
Well, the night before my surgery was the last piece of gum I chewed.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't know, man, I'm just a lucky guy.
That's great. Wow. Tough question. Tell me what you like most about you.
What I like most about me.
Yes, sir.
Man, from this side, there's not a whole lot to be real proud of. I don't know. The thing I like most about me is my tenacious need for this. I think my career has made me a selfish person to a lot of people, because I picked this over that.
Yeah.
But I did what I had to do. You know, there's things, I can only speak for myself, but
sure.
The only thing I've ever had to do was make music. I can't not do it.
What would your wife say she likes most about you?
She thinks I'm devilishly handsome.
Of course. That's a great answer.
Those are her words.
That's a great answer. She's a keeper, I think, right?
Ain't no doubt about it.
Tell me your best childhood memory.
Best childhood memory. Jeez, man, I had a great childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The hub of the plains. It's so flat out there that if you look real hard, you can see the back of your head. That's one of the things they say about coming from West Texas. I remember reading a book once talking about the Texas plains. It's a story about, oh hell, I can't think of his name now. Anyway, a pioneer guy from the Texas, Charles Goodnight, the Goodnight Trail. He was a cattleman, and he's the one that started all those cattle drives and all. But he was a guy. He rode a mule from Missouri when he was 7 years old. He became a Texas Ranger. He became this, that, and the other. Biggest cattleman in Texas. He sort of discovered Paladura Canyon, which is a miniature Grand Canyon right in the middle of the plains. I mean, you don't see it till you get there, and then, well, it was where the last Indian battle was fought. I think it was General McKenzie in the U.S. Army who anyway, the thing I was going to get to is when the Spanish came across that country and during the discovery of the Spanish conquistadors and all the Spanish explorers, they named that area the Llano Estacado, which means the staked plains. And by that, they mean it was so flat out there that they had to pile buffalo shit or hammer a stub in the ground with a flag on it as point of reference. Wow. Because you could go for days and it's just flat all the way over into New Mexico and all of West Texas. It's just flat. So without those kind of landmarks, that's what it was like at that time on the plains. And growing up in Lubbock, I can understand it because it's just flat. It goes on forever. The only place, there were two places in Lubbock to go to have a family good time. One of them was McKenzie Park, which was a small canyon. And it was called what's it called in Spanish? It was a place where Indians and Spaniards used to trade people and things. Canyon de Rescat, I think. I can't remember exactly. But it was a park, and there were cliffs in the canyon with caves in them. And as kids, we ran all through those caves all. And it was always a place where the Indians were. So, and then the other place was what's the name? Buffalo Lakes, which was in another canyon outside of Lubbock. And it was a big lake, not a big lake, but a lake. It's where I learned to swim. My daddy took me on his back out to this platform in the middle, and we got up on it, and he grabbed me by arm and leg and threw me in. And that's where I learned to swim.
What kind of work did your dad do?
He, at that time we lived in Lubbock, he was a city bus driver. When he got out of he hurt his back in training camp, broke his back in training camp.
Oh.
And so he spent, I don't know how long, in the Army hospital in Alexandria, Louisiana. I remember I must have been 5 years old. My mother and I took a train down there to visit him in the hospital. I was a little guy, like I said, 5 years old. And they had German prisoners there, and they bivouacked us in tents, Army tents. And it was the most exciting thing I'd ever done. to see these prisoners, you know, and there was armed guards walking all night long and around our tent and the whole area. And that was the furthest I'd ever been out of Texas, was riding the train down to. And I remember a guy in the room with my dad had built this model of like a Cessna. It was about this long, and he gave it to me.
Oh, it's funny how you remember things like that when you're little, right?
Well, you do, you know, and I was going to say something else. I forget what it was. Oh, I remember when the war was over. My grandmother lived in a house close to downtown Lubbock, and the tallest building in Lubbock was the Lubbock Hotel. I don't know, it's 10 or 12 stories high. And the night that the war was over, my whole family was down there at my grandmother's house watching. They were shooting fireworks off of the top of the Lubbock Hotel. Everybody driving, honking their horns, people in uniform walking the streets. And I was sitting out on the wall by the sidewalk at my grandmother's, and these 3 soldiers came walking by, and they might have been drunk. I don't know. They were really happy. And it was just really not much happened in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah, so I'm gathering.
That was a big deal. But when they came by me, one of them took his tie off and put it on me.
Oh, that's cool.
And kept walking. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I thought it was cool, you know. I don't know, little things, you know. You dig around, you can find a lot of little things that made changes in your life, you know.
Were your parents supportive of you getting into music? Because that was kind of on the outskirts. That was on the outskirts back then.
Yeah. I remember my mother wrote me a letter once and mailed it to our house because she was worried about me. I was a lousy student in school. I like a half credit graduating high school.
Yeah.
I think I already told you that. Anyway, I don't know what I was telling you.
Letter that your mom wrote.
Oh, yeah. Because she wrote me this letter because she said it was the only way she could get me to be still long enough to talk to me. And I'll never forget my dad telling me, son, if you don't get that high school education, you ain't going to amount to a hill of beans. I can hear him saying it right now. And I wanted to please my parents, you know. But I was mediocre all the way through school in most things. The one thing that I did exceed in, it was in high school, and the Yellow Jackets were the football team at this high school, right? And so the Jacket Journal, which was the school paper, comes out every 3 months, you know, just. And for the Christmas edition of the Jacket Journal, they wanted everybody in the English class to write a poem, a Christmas poem, and mine won. And I was the dumbest guy in class, but my poem won. It was Christmas to the Blind, and I can't remember now how it goes. But the last line is, and he'll have a more beautiful Christmas than you and I. And oh wait, where'd it go? His ears will be filled with Christmas cheer and yada yada yada. And he's the one filled with Christmas cheer, and we're the ones who are blind. Anyway, I won.
Oh.
Front page on the Jacket Journal. I've got it somewhere.
That's cool. So that was writing lyrics. That's why you won.
Well, I wrote poetry before I was a singer.
Yeah. So as your career developed, were your folks around to see you become successful?
My folks were not around to see that.
Sorry.
No, me too, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
My mother worried, and my daddy worried. They both worried that I was a lost cause. I mean, they didn't love me any less.
Sure.
But they didn't think blues music was very advantageous for me to be in my hobby.
Sure. Which was pretty normal thinking for back then.
Well, it's true, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you proved him wrong. I think a lot of people are happy. Who's had the biggest influence on you musically and personally, but I'm assuming personally it's probably your wife.
The biggest influence musically?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know who I could name several people and leave out several more, you know. I've been influenced by just about everything I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's either registered with me or registered as something that doesn't move me. Not that it's not valid, it just doesn't move me.
Yeah, sure.
You know? And I like music that moves me.
Yeah.
You know, I've always thought there's two kinds of music. There's music you like and music you don't like.
Right. Yeah, I can't see why somebody wouldn't. How would you like music that doesn't make you feel something? I don't get that.
Well, you know, I'm completely lost with music today. It's all so much pandering.
Yeah.
It's the reality of it is not there. But then again, I'm an old guy in a new world, and a lot of people will listen to me and look at me and like, well, he's so out of touch. Well, I am out of touch with a lot of stuff. I ever since MTV came along, the music has gone down, and it's more about wardrobe malfunctions and pretty little girls. Pretty little girls are always going to win out over old guys.
Yeah. That's the truth.
I don't care what they're doing. It's so, you know.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music?
Oh, well, I don't know if you call it a hobby.
Besides reading, because you look like you read a lot.
I do. I love to read. I fancy myself a armchair archaeologist, anthropologist.
That's cool.
I love that, and I've always have, and I've got books on it, you know, and I want to know who, what, when, where, why, and how.
So you're a curious dude.
I'm very curious, dude.
Yeah.
Very.
How did you get into archaeology and anthropology?
Beats the hell out of me. I'm fascinated by it. People grow up thinking that they learned everything there is to learn at school. It's bullshit.
Total
you don't
bullshit.
Learn anything. As far as archaeology and anthropology, you don't learn anything in high school. You learn what a Cro-Magnon was and whose bones these were and what kind of animal was this, you know. But I love the history of South America, Mexico, Ireland, all of the ancient stuff. You know, like, you know, you go to school in Texas, and you know you hear that nothing happened until Jesus came along. That's kind of what they teach. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm not a religious person.
Yeah.
And so I like to go back a couple of 100,000 years of to human activity, and like look at Baalbek in where's Baalbek? It's in some Middle Eastern country. I can't remember which one it is, but they've got these blocks that have been cut out that weigh 300 tons. Who did that?
Yeah, man,
who did that?
Right.
And
there wasn't any caterpillars, tractors. Yeah. How the hell did that happen?
And it was here way before Christ.
Yeah.
But as I grew up, the history since Christ has been about it. They briefly hit on this and that and the other, but man, there's an awful lot of unanswered things.
Definitely.
And I don't like for anybody to tell me what to think. I think for myself. And so a whole lot of the stuff that I learned in school about the world is very inadequate lessons.
Yeah. I read this quote one time. It said something like, school isn't designed to teach you to learn. It's designed to teach you to obey.
Well, that's very.
There's some truth in that.
That's Bible, You learn that with anything, the way you. Well, that's how we live as human beings. Is somebody has to be the boss.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the wrong person. A lot of times it's the right person. Right now we're living in a time where the wrong people are doing things, and it's really screwed up.
It is a messy place right now.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah. Hey, tell me the favorite place you traveled, because you've been all over the world.
I've got a home in Mexico, and that's my favorite place to go. I live in a 400-year-old Spanish colonial city called San Miguel de Allende. And it suits me. Cobblestone streets. The Mexican people, they're so joyful. There's some kind of celebration in Mexico every other day that involves everybody. It's music, it's dancing, it's camaraderie, and decency. Young people in Mexico, in this town, they have two school things a day. You go to the early school and you go to the late school. And these kids are all dressed immaculately, and the most beautiful children. They're just beautiful. And everybody's involved. I remember when I first got that place in Mexico, I met this guy who was kind of a can-do guy. He can, get this or that for you as far as knowing who to see about whatever. And he's told me once, he said, everybody in Mexico has a tail. That means that everybody goes or nobody goes. So when there's an event, it includes everybody, everyone. It's never segregated. It belongs to everybody. And that's a beautiful thing to see. I feel safer in Mexico than I do here.
How'd you get turned on to Mexico at that level?
When I was in school, I guess this is where my anthropology, archaeology goes back to. My plan was to graduate high school, get a job, buy a Jeep, and go discover Mexico. Well, I didn't make it. It took me about 60-something years to go to Mexico, to get anything resembling that. But it's always fascinated me. Mexico has its beautiful, the people are fantastic. And of course there's the horror, but the horror is everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially now. It's just this year, the murders in this country have just gone way out of control. I mean, not out of control is not the word. They just, it's everybody's pissed off and everybody's mad.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a scary place. It's a scary place.
You know, it's weird because I thought because of COVID that the people that were healthy would be mellower, you know, maybe have a little more gratitude, but man, people are angrier than ever now. It's really weird.
Well, it's because I'm an American. I've got a right. Look at some of these people. I'm an American. I don't have to wear a mask. I'm an American. That's infringing on my rights as an American.
Yeah.
Well, those kind of people that feel that way are really lost.
Mm.
Really out of touch with reality, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
You read the Karen report every day. You know what a Karen is?
No, what is that?
Oh man. When we're not doing this, say, Google the latest Karen report.
The Karen.
Karens are these privileged white women. And Ken is the privileged white man that do the most ignorant, stupid things.
All right, I'll Google that. I'll Google that today. The Karen report. I've not heard. You know what, man? Yeah. I got to tell you, I have not watched news. This is a choice of ignorance in 35 or 40 years, because it's
good
just
for you. I can't stop dipping into it at least once a day. I just can't believe the ignorance.
Yeah, that's why I stopped watching it. It was too depressing.
Well, it is. It is depressing, but it's a catch-22 for me. You know, I've got to where I don't even turn the TV on in the morning because I want to find something that makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's why I stopped watching it.
Yeah. Well, I know, but it's still there, baby.
I know.
And it's still going on, and it's getting worse. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know.
I watch animal videos, man. It's really, I never watched a video of like a deer playing with a little pony and got upset. So I just watched that. Sounds ignorant. I'm okay with that, honestly.
No, well, hey,
I am.
My favorite show on TV is Naked and Afraid.
What is that now?
You've not seen Naked and Afraid?
No, I don't watch much TV either. Sorry, man.
No, I don't either, but if I do, it's Naked. A reality show where they take a man and a woman and drop them off in the most the most hostile places on the planet. Naked, they stop and get out of the truck, take all their clothes off, put them in the back of the truck, and they meet at this particular point where there's two little bags hanging, where they've got the 2 or 3, each one of them is allowed to bring, when somebody usually brings a machete and somebody a fire starter, or somebody will bring a net or something, and they got to do 21 days in the wilderness and feed themselves.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's
and they're naked.
Yeah, naked and afraid.
Like totally naked, like no underwear, nothing.
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
Man, you got to be pretty ballsy to go on that show.
Well, you do, and you see, you know, but I mean, my wife said, "Oh, that's all bullshit. It's bullshit because you know the people that are filming them. Well, there are people that are filming them, but they don't intervene in anything unless it's an emergency. Wow. And they have a medical person with a staff, but all you really see is these two people trying to, and so all the people that do this are people who are sure they can handle it. So that's like people who know how to rub their hands together and make fire, you know.
Yeah. Survivalists.
It's I find it distracting from the reality.
From all the other bullshit going on, huh?
And they're bad actors because they're not bad actors, but bad actors on TV, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's like people stealing something from you.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if I'm reading a book and if somebody says something just stupid, I'll throw it in the trash.
Right.
I'm not going any further with that kind of bullshit.
Yeah. It's funny because people don't think you can do that, but you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. If I'm reading something and I'm done, over. If I'm watching something, you know, I hate when you watch a movie and it doesn't end and it's just a waste of time. I feel like I got 2 hours robbed from me.
Exactly.
I hate that feeling. I hate it. Hey, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, Delbert, and I cannot thank you enough for just being a real cool straight shooter. First question is, what has been the biggest change in you and your personality maybe over the last 10 years? And how much of that has been intentional and how much of that, if any, has been because of aging?
I don't know. A lot of good things have happened to me in the last 10 years. I've become a better human being, which is important to me. I have discarded a lot of baggage that's unnecessary. And since my heart surgery, I've been quite happy. I feel like I feel like I'm 50 again, you know? So life's good. I've got no complaints about my reality other than what somebody is screwing up in our government.
And so that's pretty cool when it comes down to it. Yeah.
I've got nothing else to fight but that.
And the last question is, what are the most important things you've learned through life that keep you happy and lower the amount of stress you have to deal with? Just for you.
Stop lying, for one thing. I can remember when I told myself I'd stop lying to myself. I didn't do it, but I put it in my head anyway, and I worked toward it, and I'm much better at it now. Just being aware of the fact that you're stupid is a win. It's a big win, because once you realize how stupid you are, that means, well, hell, now I can learn. And I don't know. I think for myself. I keep my own counsel, and I'm happy with that.
Well, I think you're far from stupid, and I think most of the people that are self-deprecating like you are extremely talented and bright and just very humble.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. But I've also been very stupid in my life.
Who hasn't?
But the thing that starts putting an end to that is the first thing that I ever really learned was that I don't know anything.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? None of us. I know.
So from that point of reference, since I've realized that everything's better.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough. Again, you're a lovely guy. Really a privilege to talk with you. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate how direct you are, and it's really nice. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it, man. It was fun, interesting.
Good. And is any chance you're going to be on Naked and Afraid once COVID's over?
Oh, baby, not me.
I will watch TV for that.
Well, you need to watch it because the bugs eat these people alive. And, you know, some of the things it's real, you know, they eat caterpillars and shit, anything, because they have to. And it's, you know, it's a good way to see people who can handle it and people who can't handle it.
Right, right. Hey,
when I was 30 years old, I would have been first in line to go do something like that.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I was young and I thought I could, you know, young, do anything. Right. Especially, and I used to love to go camping, you know, when I was a kid, and of course I never had to shoot something to eat, but being outdoors and being confronted with the reality of being outdoors has always been something that draws me. So that show, you get to sit in your comfy chair and you get to watch a couple of people get tormented for 21 days and come through it, you know. And somehow there's some gratitude in there, you know.
I'm going to do this. I'll Google the Karen Report. I'm going to take baby steps with this stuff. I'll Google Karen Report first, and I'll move on to Naked and Afraid.
Okay.
Hey, let me tell people where to find you. First of all, if you have not checked out Delbert's latest album, this is it, man. You need this. All right. It's called Tall, Dark, and Handsome. It's a great record. He's also got a book, which I didn't get to read, One of the Fortunate Few. Is there going to be another book coming out?
Beg pardon?
Is there another book coming out at some point?
No, but that was coming out in paperback.
Okay. So One of the Fortunate Few, check that out. And go to his website, delbert.com. And he's just an awesome guy, man. Check out his music if you're not familiar with it. And you'll be happy. Any final words?
No, man. You know, just keep on keeping on.
Right on. Well, hang on a second. Let me wrap this up. And thank you for everything. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
Likewise. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels with your friends. We appreciate your support. Many, many thanks to Delbert McClinton. I can see now why all these guys love you, man. You give them the real deal, no bullshit. You know, you want good music, and that's what it's all about, and that's what musicians want, man. None of this other kind of bullshit they got to deal with, man. And you look out for your people. I could tell that, too. And thank you for that. And most important, especially nowadays, man, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play a guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Brother, thank you so much, Delbert.
Thank you.